This is the case study of a human we classified as unfit for excellence. The same human who later prevented the complete loss of Station Hyperion 7. Look, I am not saying we were arrogant. But yeah, okay, we were absolutely arrogant. My name is Velkrin, and I serve as the administrative coordinator at the Celestial Navigation Academy on Station Hyperion 7. That is a fancy way of saying I push data tablets around and pretend the paperwork matters. The Academy, though, that place actually mattered. It was the most prestigious training facility in the entire Galactic Union, where the best and brightest came to learn stellar cartography, quantum navigation, and how to not accidentally fly your ship into a supernova. We had species from 47 different worlds. Crystalline Thaxians who could calculate jump coordinates in their heads. Aquatic Nirmali who processed spatial data through bioluminescent displays. Even those insufferably precise Kulthari, with their forearms and their color-coded filing systems that admittedly I had stolen several ideas from over the years. And then there was her. The human, Cassidy Rhodes. She arrived 6 cycles ago with impressive credentials, at least on paper. Earth had only joined the Union 3 standard years prior, and already they were sending candidates to our most elite institutions. The audacity was almost charming. Almost. She had letters of recommendation, test scores that seemed adequate, and that peculiar human enthusiasm that made you want to either encourage them or tell them to sit down and stop asking so many questions. Spoiler alert, we should have encouraged her, but no. We did what we always did. We smiled with our diplomatic faces, nodded politely, and assumed she would wash out within the first semester like most newcomers from developing worlds. The curriculum was designed by the finest academic minds in the galaxy. After all, the tests were calibrated to challenge species with centuries of spacefaring experience. What chance did a human have? Their planet had barely figured out faster-than-light travel, for crying out loud. Cassidy tried. I will give her that much credit. She attended every lecture, took meticulous notes on her primitive electronic tablet, and stayed after class to ask instructors clarifying questions. She partnered with study groups, even when the other students, particularly the Varathian contingent, made it abundantly clear she was slowing them down. She smiled through it all with that bizarre human optimism that seemed equal parts genuine and delusional. Then came the orbital mechanics final examination. It was a practical test, naturally. You cannot learn to navigate the stars by reading about them in some dusty archive. The students had to plot a course through the Kepler cluster, accounting for gravitational wells, solar winds, and 3 separate asteroid fields. Standard stuff. Most species could complete it in about 4 hours. Cassidy took 7. And she still failed. Not just barely failed. Mind you, she failed spectacularly. Her trajectory calculations were off by 3.7 degrees, which in stellar navigation terms meant she would have flown her hypothetical ship directly into a gas giant. Her timing was wrong. Her fuel consumption estimates were laughable. The simulation crashed twice because she kept trying unconventional approaches that the program was not designed to handle. The Academy Council convened immediately. Instructor Molnax, a Thaxian with approximately 0 patience for incompetence, argued for immediate expulsion. Dean Kirill, ever the politician, suggested a more diplomatic approach. After all, Earth was a new member species, and outright rejection might create interstellar tensions. We had image problems to consider, so they reached a compromise that they probably thought was generous. Cassidy Rhodes would not be expelled. Instead, she would be reassigned to night duty security detail for the remainder of the academic year. It was punishment dressed up as opportunity. She would maintain her student status technically, but she would spend her nights walking the empty corridors of the academy, checking locked doors and monitoring systems that never had problems. Busy work. Exile disguised as employment. When Dean Kirill delivered the news, I happened to be in the administrative wing filing censor reports. I watched through the transparent aluminum partition as Cassidy received her sentence. I expected tears, maybe anger, perhaps that human tendency toward dramatic emotional outbursts we had all heard about. Instead, she just nodded. Thanked the dean. Asked what time her first shift started. The audacity. We all thought it was pathetic, honestly. A final desperate attempt to cling to her academy dream before reality inevitably crushed it. Give her a few weeks of lonely overnight shifts, and she would request a transfer back to Earth with her tail between her legs. Metaphorically speaking, humans do not have tails. which honestly seems like a design oversight. I remember Instructor Mulnax laughing about it in the faculty lounge later that evening. "Night duty," he said, his crystalline voice chiming with amusement. "Perfect assignment for a species that clearly cannot handle the light of academic excellence." We all laughed. Yeah, that did not age well. Cassidy started her first night shift exactly on time, which I suppose should have been our first clue that we had miscalculated something. Punctuality is a virtue, sure, but there is punctuality and then there is whatever she was doing. She arrived 15 minutes early, already wearing the security uniform, carrying a thermal container of that brown liquid humans consume obsessively. Coffee, they call it. Smells like burnt plant matter and regret. The previous night's security officer, a Nirmali named Plixoth, gave her the most minimal briefing possible. "Point to this console. Check that door. Walk this corridor every hour. Do not touch anything important." Plixoth could barely contain his disdain. He had worked night shift for 2 cycles and considered it the universe's personal insult to his existence. Now he was training the human failure, who could not even pass basic navigation. "Try not to break anything," Plixoth told her, his bioluminescent patches flickering with what I recognized as sarcasm in his species. "Though I suppose that is asking too much." Cassidy just smiled. That same smile. "I will do my best." Plixoth left, and she began her rounds. Now, I was not there personally for most of this. I have better things to do than watch security footage of empty hallways at 3 in the morning. But here is the thing about academy stations. Everything is recorded. Every corridor. Every lab. Every classroom. It is policy. Safety regulations. And yes, maybe we were all a little curious about how badly the human would mess up her one simple job. So we watched. Not live, obviously. We had lives. But the next morning, during breakfast in the faculty lounge, someone would pull up the previous night's highlights on the communal display. It became routine entertainment. Morning coffee and watching the humans stumble around in the dark. Except she was not stumbling. The academy runs on a standard diurnal cycle, 26 hours split between light and dark periods to accommodate most species' circadian rhythms. During night cycle, the corridors dim to 15% illumination. Enough to see if you have halfway decent eyes. Most species need to activate their personal light sources or rely on the emergency strips along the floor. Cassidy walked through the darkness like it was not even there. First night, we thought it was luck. She was following the illuminated floor strips. Obviously. Any idiot could do that. Second night, when she walked through a corridor where 3 of the floor strips had malfunctioned, not even slowing down. That got a few murmurs. Instructor Zelith, a Kolthari with expertise in biology, suggested maybe humans had better low-light vision than we had assumed. "Impossible," Mulnax said, crunching on his mineral supplements. "Earth is a bright world. Mid-spectrum star, clear atmosphere. No evolutionary pressure for darkness adaptation." We all nodded. Made sense. Had to be something else. Third night. The something else got weirder. The motion sensors in Laboratory 7 triggered at 0200 hours. Cassidy was 2 sections away, but she responded in under 90 seconds. The footage showed her moving through the dark corridors at a pace that was not quite running but definitely faster than walking. She arrived at Lab 7, checked the entrance, then did something that made absolutely no sense. She turned off her flashlight, just stood there, in the darkness, completely still, head tilted slightly. The lab's internal cameras showed nothing unusual. No intruders, no equipment malfunctions, no reason for the sensor to trigger. Probably a calibration error, which happened occasionally. Standard procedure was to log it and move on. Instead, Cassidy pulled out her communication device and called maintenance. "There is something wrong with the ventilation intake in Lab 7, she said. "Sounds irregular. Might want to check it before day shift." Maintenance did check it, mostly because they were bored and the human was new enough to humor. Turns out the intake fan had a worn bearing. Would have failed completely within a week, potentially contaminating several sensitive experiments. How in the name of the galactic core did she hear that? The mockery in the faculty lounge took on a different tone. Less outright laughter, more confused derision. Instructor Bavik suggested maybe humans had enhanced auditory processing. Someone else joked that maybe she was part bat. That got a bigger laugh because, well, it was absurd. But the jokes were getting nervous around the edges. Fifth night, things escalated. A Vorithian student named Kelron, who had been particularly cruel to Cassidy during her time in regular classes, decided it would be hilarious to mess with her. He snuck into the academy after hours using his old access credentials and started moving things around in Corridor 12. Chairs repositioned, wall panels opened, supply crates shifted, juvenile pranks. The kind of thing you do when you are young, stupid, and convinced of your own superiority. He got caught in under 10 minutes. The footage was remarkable. Cassidy came around the corner, swept her light across the corridor once, then called out, "Kelron, I can hear you breathing behind the support column. Come out before I report this." He did not come out. Pride and all that. She walked directly to his hiding spot without hesitation, looked him dead in his 4 eyes, and said with absolutely no emotion, "Go back to your quarters. Now." He went. The next morning, the faculty lounge was very quiet during breakfast. We watched that footage 3 times. Nobody made jokes. Instructor Molnax kept adjusting his crystalline structure, which is what his species does when they are uncomfortable. "Maybe," Zeleth said slowly, "we should review human biology specifications more carefully." "Yeah, maybe we should have done that before we stuck her in the dark." By week 3, watching the overnight security footage had stopped being entertainment and started being something closer to academic research. Or maybe anxiety. Possibly both. I found myself staying late more often than I care to admit, reviewing the previous night's recordings with the kind of attention I usually reserved for budget reports that could get me fired. And I was not alone. Instructor Zeleth started compiling data. Actual spreadsheets, cross-referencing incident reports with human biological specifications from the Union's xenobiology database, which, as it turned out, was depressingly incomplete. Cassidy had settled into her role with an ease that should not have been possible. She knew the station better than officers who had worked there for years. Every corridor, every access panel, every ventilation shaft and maintenance tunnel. She walked her routes with casual confidence, like the darkness was not just familiar but preferred. That was the part that kept nagging at me. She did not tolerate the darkness. She thrived in it. Incident log. Night cycle 47. The climate control system in the East Wing started malfunctioning around 0130 hours. Temperature dropped 7 degrees in under 20 minutes. Not dangerous but definitely uncomfortable for the Thaxian students housed in that section. Automated alerts went out to maintenance, but they were handling a coolant leak in the docking bay and would not be available for at least 2 hours. Cassidy responded before the alerts even reached her console. The footage showed her standing perfectly still in Corridor 9, head tilted again in that way she did when she was listening to something the rest of us could not hear. Then she walked, not to the climate control hub like any reasonable person would, but directly to a maintenance access panel 3 sections away. She opened it, reached inside without looking, and adjusted something. The temperature stabilized within 5 minutes. When maintenance finally arrived, they asked her how she knew which relay to reset. Her response, delivered with that infuriating human smile, "I felt the air current change," figured it was the secondary regulator in Junction 42. She felt the air current change in a corridor. While wearing a uniform, maintenance logged it as intuitive problem solving. I logged it as deeply unsettling. Incident log. Night cycle 53. A pack of supply drones malfunctioned in the cargo bay. Not a crisis, just annoying. They started following corrupted navigation protocols, bumping into walls, circling each other like confused metal insects. Happened occasionally with older models. Standard procedure was to remotely shut them down and reboot their systems in the morning. Cassidy walked into the cargo bay, observed them for maybe 30 seconds, then started making this clicking sound with her tongue. Not loud, just rhythmic. Click, click, pause, click, click, pause. The drones stopped circling. Then and I watched this footage 6 times to make sure I was not hallucinating. They started following her. She led them back to their charging stations like she was herding livestock. Echolocation interference, she explained later when maintenance asked. Their sensors were conflicting. I just gave them a clearer auditory reference point to triangulate from. She just gave them a clearer auditory reference point. Casual. Like that was a thing people did. Dean Corell called an unofficial faculty meeting that afternoon. Nobody announced it formally, but somehow we all ended up in conference room 3 with the door sealed and the recording systems disabled. Academic institutions love their plausible deniability. We need to discuss the human. Kirill said, and the careful way he said it made my spine ridges stiffen. Zelith pulled up his research on the main display. Charts, graphs, biological comparisons. I have been reviewing Earth's evolutionary history, he said. Humans are persistence predators. Apex hunters from a world with significant megafauna. They evolved not through strength or speed but through endurance and adaptability. We know this already. Molnax interrupted. They are stubborn and they sweat excessively. What does this have to do with night duty? Zelith adjusted the display. Their eyes. Look at their eyes. He showed us a comparison. Human eyes versus Thaxian, Kolthari, Nirmali, Vorathian. The differences were striking once you knew what to look for. Human pupils dilated significantly wider. Their retinas contained a higher concentration of rod cells, specialized for low-light vision. They had a tapetum lucidum. Wait, no. Scratch that. They do not have that. But what they did have was something called rhodopsin in unusually high concentrations. They can see in near darkness, Zelith said quietly. Not as well as species that evolved in low-light environments, but far better than any of us assumed. Their night vision is not an anomaly. It is standard for their species. The room went very quiet. But Earth is a bright world, I said, because someone had to. Why would they evolve night vision? Because, Zelith continued, pulling up more data. Earth rotates. Half their day is darkness. And early humans did not stop hunting just because their sun set. They adapted. They learned to track prey through darkness, to move silently, to use minimal light sources. Their entire predatory strategy involved pursuing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, often across multiple day-night cycles. Instructor Bavix made a sound that in his species indicated existential dread. We put an apex predator evolved for darkness persistence hunting on night duty. As punishment, yes, Zelith said. And we thought we were being clever, I added. Yes. Zelith repeated. Dean Kirill rubbed his cranial ridge with two hands, a gesture of deep frustration. This does not necessarily mean anything. So she can see in the dark and has good hearing. That does not change her academic performance. She still failed orbital mechanics. Molnax nodded, but he looked less certain than usual. The human is adequate at security work. That does not translate to navigation competence. We all agreed, vocally. Out loud, because that made it true, obviously. Incident log, night cycle 61. That was when everything changed. A research team in Lab 14 had been running long-term experiments on quantum entanglement. Delicate stuff, expensive equipment. The kind of work that required environmental stability and absolutely zero interference. Their experiment was scheduled to complete its data collection phase at 0300 hours, right in the middle of Cassidy's shift. Nobody told her about it. Why would they? Security officers do not need to know about every research project. Just walk the corridors, check the doors, leave the smart people alone to do smart things. At 0245, Cassidy entered Lab 14. Just walked right in, no announcement, no warning. The research team, 3 Thaxians and a Kolthari, were furious. She had potentially contaminated their experiment. She had violated protocol. She had no authorization. She ignored all of them. Walked directly to their quantum containment field and said, "You need to shut this down. Now, your magnetic bottle is degrading." The lead researcher, a Thaxian named Korvix, actually laughed at her. "The containment field is perfectly stable. Our sensors show no abnormalities. You have no qualifications to even interpret this equipment." Cassidy looked at him with an expression I had seen before, but never properly understood. Patient, tired. The look of someone who was done being underestimated. "I can hear it," she said simply. "The magnetic field is oscillating at the wrong frequency. You have maybe 3 minutes before catastrophic containment failure. Shut it down or lose 6 months of work and possibly your lab." Korvix did not shut it down. Pride is a universal constant. 2 minutes and 37 seconds later, the containment field collapsed. No explosion, thankfully, but the quantum state decoherence corrupted all their data. 6 months of research, gone. Station maintenance reviewed the equipment logs afterward. The magnetic bottle had been degrading for 3 days, so slowly that the sensors barely registered it, well within normal variance ranges. It would have been undetectable to anyone without specialized diagnostic equipment, or apparently to anyone without human hearing. We stopped joking about Cassidy Rhodes after that, and we started wondering what else we had missed. Night Cycle 78. That was when we stopped wondering and started understanding in the most terrifying way possible. I was still in my office, because apparently I had given up on maintaining a healthy work-life balance. The station was quiet, just the usual hum of life support and the occasional footstep echo from the overnight crew. Cassidy was on her rounds. Everything was routine. Then the lights went out. Not the normal dimming for Night Cycle. I mean everything. Complete darkness. The kind of black that makes you forget which way is up. Emergency lighting should have kicked in immediately, bathing everything in that horrible red glow that makes everyone look either dead or dying. Nothing happened. My console died mid-sentence. The climate controls stopped humming. For exactly 3 seconds, Station Hyperion 7 was completely silent and utterly dark, and in those 3 seconds I understood what prey animals must feel like. Then the alarm started. Not the normal alert tone, the bad one. The one that means hull breach, or reactor failure, or some other flavor of imminent death. Backup power kicked in, finally, bringing the emergency systems online at maybe 30% capacity. My console flickered back to life with a dozen critical alerts scrolling across the screen. Primary power grid failure. Secondary relays not responding. Tertiary backups operating at minimal function. Life support holding, but oxygen recycling compromised. Estimated air supply with current population. 4 hours, maybe 5. 4 hours. I heard shouting in the corridors. Faculty members stumbling out of their quarters, trying to use their personal devices for light. The Normali were in full panic mode, their bioluminescence strobing erratically. The Faxians were attempting to establish some kind of order, but their usual confidence sounded thin and stretched. Dean Carrill's voice came over the station-wide communication system, crackling with interference. "This is not a drill. All personnel proceed to your designated emergency stations. Remain calm. Engineering teams to the power distribution center immediately. Remain calm." Right. Sure. We were all going to die professionally and with proper decorum. I grabbed my emergency kit and headed for the administrative muster point, using my personal light to navigate corridors I had walked for years but suddenly did not recognize. Other officers joined me, everyone moving slowly, carefully, trying not to trip over debris or each other. Engineering was located in the lower sections, near the reactor core. A team of 6 specialists, led by Chief Vorn, a Kolthari, with 4 decades of experience. If anyone could fix this, it was them. I told myself that repeatedly. It did not help. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. The air was getting noticeably stale. That flat quality that means the scrubbers are not keeping up. My communication device crackled with updates. Engineering had reached the power center. The damage was extensive. Someone had asked, how long for repairs? Voron's response was not encouraging. 8 hours. Minimum. If we have the right components, if nothing else breaks, we had maybe 4 hours of air. The math was simple and horrifying. Then a new voice cut through the communication channel. Calm, clear, human. This is Rhodes. I am at junction point 87 in the main distribution trunk. I think I found your problem. There was a pause. Then Voron's voice tight with stress and barely contained irritation. Security personnel are not authorized in the power distribution areas. Clear the channel. With respect, Chief. You are looking in the wrong place. The primary grid did not fail. It was bypassed. Someone or something rerouted power flow through a secondary junction that could not handle the load. It melted the relay couplings. I am looking at the damage right now. Another pause. Longer this time. That junction is in a crawl space with 0 emergency lighting, Vorn said slowly. How can you possibly see anything? I have a flashlight, Cassidy replied, and I could hear the smile in her voice even through the static. Also, there is enough residual heat signature from the melted components that I can see the damage pattern pretty clearly. She could see heat signatures. Of course she could. Why not? What was one more impossible human ability? Vorn was clearly recalculating everything he thought he knew. Can you describe what you are seeing? Precisely. She did. In technical detail that made it very clear she had been paying attention during lectures she supposedly failed. She described the relay configuration, the melted couplings, the rerouted power flow patterns. She even identified which specific connection had failed first, starting the cascade. "That is accurate," Bourne admitted, and he sounded like the words physically hurt. "But repairs require specialized tools and components. It will still take hours to fix properly." "Or," Cassidy said, "I could bypass the damaged section entirely and reroute through the tertiary grid. It is not designed for primary load, but if we shut down non-essential systems and balance the draw carefully, it should hold until you can make proper repairs." Silence on the channel. Everyone was listening now. Every faculty member, every student, every crew member with a working communication device. "That is not standard procedure," Bourne said. "Standard procedure gives us air for 4 more hours," Cassidy replied. "My way gives us air indefinitely, and buys you time to fix this properly." "Your choice, Chief." More silence. "Then talk me through it, step by step." What happened next took 45 minutes that felt like 45 years. Cassidy, alone in a dark crawl space with minimal light and no backup, rewired a primary power junction using instructions relayed through a communication device with spotty reception. She worked by touch as much as sight, identifying components by feel, tracing conduits through sheer familiarity with the station's layout. The engineering team listened, occasionally offered guidance, mostly just stayed quiet and let her work. The Normali stopped panicking. The Faxians stopped trying to organize everyone. We all just stood there in the dark corridors, listening to a human solve the problem we could not. At 43 minutes, Cassidy said. "Reroute complete. Chief, try bringing the tertiary grid online." A pause. Then lights flickered. Dim at first, then stronger. Not full power, but enough. Consoles hummed back to life. Climate control resumed its normal background whisper. The air circulation kicked in with a sound I had never appreciated properly before. "We were not going to die today." Bourne's voice came back on the channel, gruff and tired. "Power restored. Life support stable. Good work, Rhodes." "Just doing my job," she replied. "Just doing her job. The job we gave her as punishment. The job we thought was beneath someone who failed our tests." I looked around at the faculty members gathered in the corridor. Molnax, Zeleth, Bavix, all of them. We had the same expression. The same realization hitting us simultaneously. We had not failed, Cassidy Rhodes. She had not failed, either. We had just been testing her for the wrong things all along. The emergency faculty meeting the next morning was not optional. Dean Kurill made that very clear. Every instructor, every department head, every administrator who had signed off on Cassidy's reassignment. We filled conference room 3 past capacity, standing room only, and nobody complained about the crowding. Kurill did not waste time on pleasantries. "We need to talk about what happened last night, and more importantly, we need to talk about what it means." Zeleth had already prepared his presentation, because of course he had. The main display lit up with data, charts, evolutionary trees, comparative biology. He had been busy during those 4 hours. "We thought we were going to suffocate. Humans," he began, "are the only species in the Galactic Union that evolved on a planet with a single moon, significant axial tilt, and regular day-night cycles of approximately 12 hours each. Every other member species comes from worlds with either multiple suns, minimal rotation, or environmental conditions that made darkness uncommon or irrelevant to survival." He pulled up an image of Earth. That little blue marble, third planet from an unremarkable yellow star. For millions of years, early humans and their ancestors dealt with darkness every single day. Not as an anomaly, not as a challenge to overcome with technology, as routine reality. They adapted. The next slide showed human eye structure in excruciating detail. Their pupils can dilate up to 80% larger than ours. Their rod cell concentration is triple that of Thaxians. They possess minimal but functional tapetal reflection, and their neural processing prioritizes contrast detection in low-light conditions. They did not evolve to see in the dark perfectly. They evolved to function in the dark adequately, which in survival terms is the same thing. Instructor Bavix shifted uncomfortably. "This explains the night vision. It does not explain how she heard a magnetic containment field degrading or identified melted relay couplings by heat signature." "Actually, it does," Zeleth said. "Human hearing range extends from 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. Ours caps at 12,000. They can detect sounds we are literally incapable of perceiving, and their thermoreception, while not as developed as species from high-temperature worlds, is significantly more sensitive than ours. They can detect temperature variations of less than 1 degree at close range. He paused, letting that sink in. And here is the part that should concern us all. Humans are persistent predators. They do not chase prey in short bursts. They track it, for hours, sometimes days, across varied terrain, through changing conditions, day and night. Their entire evolutionary strategy is based on paying attention to tiny details, following subtle patterns, and never ever giving up. The room was very quiet. We designed our tests to measure knowledge and speed, Zeleth continued. Memorization and calculation. The ability to solve problems quickly under ideal conditions with perfect information. Cassidy Rhodes failed those tests because they measure abilities humans never evolved to prioritize. But when we gave her a real problem in real conditions with incomplete information and zero support, she excelled. Because that is what humans do. Molnex finally spoke, his crystalline voice subdued. Are you suggesting we redesign our entire curriculum around human capabilities? No, Dean Kirill said, standing. I am suggesting we failed to recognize that different species have different strengths, and our testing methods are biased towards specific types of intelligence while ignoring others. Cassidy Rhodes does not process spatial mathematics the way Thaxians do. She cannot calculate jump coordinates as quickly as Kolthari, but she can navigate by instinct, solve problems creatively under pressure, and adapt to situations our top students would panic in. He looked around the room, meeting eyes. Last night every species represented in this academy was helpless. Our best engineers could not fix the problem fast enough. Our most experienced crew could not see well enough to work in those conditions. And a human we dismissed as a failure saved all our lives because we accidentally put her in the one environment where her species has a natural advantage. The implications hung in the air like radiation. So, what do we do? I asked. Because someone had to. Kirill smiled thinly. We stopped being arrogant. We acknowledged that a species barely 3 years into galactic society might actually have something to teach us. And we offer Cassidy Rhodes a formal position as a specialized instructor in crisis management and low-visibility operations. Molnax made a sound of protest. She failed orbital mechanics. Then she retakes it, Kirill said sharply. With accommodations for her learning style, practical applications instead of pure theory, hands-on navigation instead of computational speed tests. And if she passes, which I suspect she will, we grant her full accreditation. He pulled up a file on the display. Security footage from last night. Cassidy in that crawl space, working by minimal light, rewiring critical systems with steady hands. Look at her, Kirill said. Really look. That is not someone struggling. That is someone finally given a task that plays to her actual abilities. We did not banish her to night duty as punishment. We accidentally gave her the only job on this station she was overqualified for. The meeting adjourned shortly after. People left quietly, lost in thought. I stayed behind watching that footage loop. Cassidy Rhodes, working in darkness, solving problems, saving lives, doing what her species had done for millions of years, just in a slightly different context. I found her later that day, finishing her shift report in the security office. She looked tired but satisfied, that human expression that suggested accomplishment mixed with exhaustion. The dean wants to see you, I told her. You are being offered an instructor position. She blinked, surprised but not shocked. For what subject? Crisis management, adaptive problem solving. Basically, teaching everyone else how to think like a human when everything goes wrong. She smiled. Then, that same smile she had worn when they told her she failed. When they assigned her to night duty, when everyone assumed she would quit. The smile that said she knew something we did not. Sounds perfect, she said. And the really scary part? She meant it. 3 months later, enrollment in Cassidy's crisis management course was the highest in Academy history. Students from every species, learning human problem-solving techniques, learning to work with incomplete information, to trust their instincts, to adapt when plans failed. Learning, essentially, to survive in the dark. I still push data tablets around and pretend the paperwork matters. But now when I walk the corridors at night, I am aware of the darkness in a way I never was before. I am aware of how vulnerable we all are when the lights go out. How dependent we became on our technology, our controlled environments, our perfect conditions. Humans never had perfect conditions. They had darkness and danger and 1,000 things trying to kill them. So they learned to adapt. We thought we were punishing Cassidy Rhodes by putting her in the dark. Turns out, we were just sending her home. And the really terrifying question, the one that keeps me awake during night cycles sometimes, if humans are this good at surviving in the dark, what else are they good at that we have not discovered yet? I have a feeling we are going to find out, and I am not sure we are ready for it.